NXT Takeover Brooklyn 3 is the night before SummerSlam, and it's a great card so far. I mean, the past 2 weeks have been great for NXT so far, and they're still going head-to-head with Lucha Underground every week for now, and it's been great. Both shows have been picking up amazing shows. They've been pretty too close to call if you looked into what some people have called a Wednesday night war between Lucha Underground and NXT, but nonetheless. We have 2 matches to go over, so we'll go through them as quickly as possible. First off, the NXT Championship is Bobby Roode defends against Drew McIntyre. For those who have not seen Drew McIntyre over the past few months, before coming back to NXT, he was Drew Galloway, former TNA champion, former TNA, I believe, Grand Champion, or Impact Grand Champion, I believe. Former WCPW champion. And who could forget, former Intercontinental Champion, former Tag Champion, former Chosen One, rather. And now, this newer style of McIntyre is back in WWE under that umbrella in the form of NXT. He won a number contendership match last week against Killian Dane, aka the former Big Damo. And now we have Roode versus McIntyre at TakeOver Brooklyn 3. With this match, though, I feel like I don't know. I really don't know what they'll do with this one. Just because McIntyre just came back to the company, so I don't know if they'll do kind of a TNA type thing or a GFW type thing, because they're now Global Force Wrestling, but nonetheless, using TNA as an example and putting their newer brought in talent to be the world champion right away. I don't think that'll happen, but with takeovers, you have to be careful because these people could be called up to the main roster. So you have to look at it differently than a WWE pay-per-view, for example, because they're already on the main roster. You don't have to worry about anything, except if it's like a career match or something like that. Nonetheless, this can go two ways. If Roode is going to be called up to the main roster after SummerSlam, per se, because they will have some call-ups after SummerSlam, that's not a doubt in my mind that'll happen. If they do bring Roode up, then he would drop the title, obviously, to McIntyre. But if Roode is staying, then he will retain the title. And finally, perhaps the greatest champion in NXT history, the longest reigning champion in the history of NXT, Asuka, the women's champion, defends against Ember Moon in a rematch from, I believe, NXT Takeover Chicago, or one of the takeovers recently. If it wasn't Chicago, it was probably the one before Chicago. But it was a great match nonetheless. And we had, the last time these two faced off was a couple months ago. Asuka used the official in a way to trip up Ember Moon on the top rope. And that was Ember's first defeat on NXT ever. With that in mind, though, Asuka has not been seen over the past few weeks just because there's been, in her mind, a lack of competition, and how can you blame her? I mean, looking at Asuka's career, looking at what she's done with the NXT title, she's probably held it longer than any champion in NXT history. In fact, if you compare it to the Women's Championship, I believe when I say the Women's Championship, the original Women's Championship, I believe the next person to surpass her on the days of holding the title is Rockin' Robin. So, and this is the original Women's Championship, not the Raw or SmackDown, because she's obviously surpassed both of them as a champion. And you look at Asuka's, she's undefeated still. She's beaten Goldberg's streak. She's beaten CM Punk's title reign. Just putting in perspective what she's done as a wrestler and what this reign means. She's done some pretty incredible stuff already. And again, this depends on if they'll call up Asuka after SummerSlam. If they do call her up, Asuka will probably drop the belt, have her first loss, and Ember Moon will become the champion. However, if she's staying in NXT, then she will retain. This is the thing with NXT TakeOver things. Again, you have to look towards the future and see if, for example, say Ember Moon is called up to the main roster. She will probably won't win the title for NXT, unless you want to bring the title up and say, oh, this is the NXT Women's Champion. In Asuka's case, if you want to bring her up as be the dominant champion that she is as NXT, you can bring the title up and use that as a story. But it depends on what you want to do from that point. And with that, NXT Takeover is Brooklyn is the night before SummerSlam, and a lot of matches will be made over the past few weeks. We have 4 weeks to go, so hopefully we'll have more of this very soon.